Hello everyone and welcome to What's Up with Richard. Little bit of a road trip today. I'm here in the city of Niles, Michigan at the train station where 3 movie scenes have been shot for 3 different movies. So we're here today to find out a little bit about those movies and take a look at this beautiful train station. In 1981, a scene from the John Belushi movie Continental Divide was filmed here. That was a comedy where Belushi plays a Chicago journalist beat up by bad cops while investigating crooked aldermen. And he's sent to Wyoming for his own protection to interview an Eagle expert played by Blair Brown. At odds at first, they fall in love. And as the case many times in film, they have a falling out and separate. When the Brown character comes to Chicago for the lecture, the two reunite. But because of their different lifestyles, they've chosen to part again. Seeing her off at the train station, he decides to travel back to Wyoming with her. And this is the train station from that scene. Eventually they marry. He leaves again for Chicago, but vows to return again. As you can see, this is a beautiful building. No wonder they used it for movie locations. An asymmetrically planned brownstone structure, it was built in a Richardsonian Romanesque style, topped by hip and gabled roofs. In 1979, it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places and on the Michigan State Register in 1992. In 1988, a second scene from a movie was filmed here. The comedy Midnight Run, starring Robert De Niro as a bounty hunter, and a white-collar criminal played by Charles Grodin, was shot here. I read that this movie was a crude trains, planes, and automobiles road trip kind of movie, where 2 clashing characters are being chased across the country, being followed by the FBI and the mafia. And of course, there was a train scene, and Niles was one of the stops. Now, a third and final movie, Only the Lonely, was shot here in 1991. Rose, played by Maureen O'Hara, loves her son Danny, played by John Candy. Danny, a lonely police officer, finds love when he meets Teresa, who's played by Ali Sheedy, and falls in love. Not wanting to lose her son, Rose stoops to some pretty dirty tactics to keep them apart. Of course, Danny gets some skewed advice from his fellow officers, one played by Jim Belushi and Kevin Dunn. Danny decides to marry Teresa and asks her to marry him in an unusual way. You'll have to watch the movie for that one. However, Danny, in a later scene, calls his mother to check on her. Teresa, sensing that Danny's mother will always be in the way, for lack of a better way to put it, leaves Chicago for New York by train. Meanwhile, Danny sees a family friend who passed away, lonely and without any loved ones. He didn't want that same thing to happen to him. Knowing the station manager, he has the train stop, proclaims his love for her, and follows Teresa to New York. That train station is here in Niles. They changed the name to Willoughby in the movie. Just a little sidebar here. Jim Belushi stated that Maureen O'Hara was given a small trailer during the filming of this movie, and that the money should be spent on production and not old movie actresses. And John Candy complained on her behalf. So what'd he do? He gave up his trailer to her until the studio finally caved in and she was given an appropriate trailer. What does that tell you about John Candy? Now, the station during that final scene was decorated in lights because it was during Christmas. Those lights were donated to Amtrak, who just frankly didn't want them. So they gave them to the Four Flags Garden Club. And they accepted the lights. And each Christmas since then, they have lit the train station. And I think if we walk up there, we can see them. There they are. Since 1991. The sign reads, "This Richardsonian Romanesque style depot was constructed in 1892 by the Michigan Central Railroad Company, seeking to create a lasting impression of Michigan for passengers traveling to the 1893 Columbian Exposition," which happened to be in Chicago. The company hired the Detroit firm of Spire and Romes to design the station. Built mostly of Ohio sandstone, this depot replaced a ramshackle structure that the Niles Daily Star referred to as the old cockroach repository. The grounds feature a pond and gardens designed by German immigrant John Gipner, who presented roses grown at the station to women arriving in Niles. The depot was showcased in several feature films, including, and we talked about these, The Continental Divide, Midnight Run, and Only the Lonely.